if you don't know me. I did my research on the changes in body composition throughout a season in men's soccer players and NCAA Division III program. So my research question, is there a correlation between playing time and body fat percentage? I want to start with just a little previous research that I found. I found that in previous research they did measure body composition but looked at preseason, postseason measurements, not throughout. A lot of research also focused on performance changes throughout a season. It wasn't necessarily how body fat had changed over time, it was just kind of just the body fat related to performance. I didn't find any research really based on playing time and body fat percentage, so that's one reason I picked this topic. And also nothing focused on outside activity that might play a role, and this is probably because a lot of the research I looked at was looking at semi-professional or professional, so probably not a lot of leisure activity outside of that. Why is this important? If there is a correlation between playing time and body fat percentage, the players with either a higher body fat percentage or less playing time, they might need to get extra fitness to maintain that level or get to a lower level to have their optimal performance. All right, methods. So I took measurements once a month from the beginning of the season to December, and that's with the exception of my final measurement. That was done 2 weeks from the previous one. That was between November and December, just because the semester is ending, didn't have the full month, especially with finals and people going home. My subjects were 22 male soccer players from Emory and Henry. So when we were taking these measurements, we had the players come in and they were wearing light clothing such as t-shirts, shorts. We had them remove their shoes and weigh in. Then we moved on to taking their body fat percentage with a skin caliper, skin fold caliper, which most of us have seen, but just took the pinch sites at the pectoral, abdominal, and quadriceps site, and then thank God I didn't have to put it in this Jackson Pollock formula by hand. As you can tell, that's it, and it would have taken me quite a while to put in everyone's numbers. Thankfully, we have a digital, and it did it for me. Also, along with procedures, I implemented a Godin leisure time exercise questionnaire. I have a slide after this that has the questions on it. Basically, it's just looking at leisure activity outside, and then there's a formula that gives it a score. And then I ended up running that against body fat percentage. Statistical analysis, I just used SPSS, input my data into a Pearson R formula, and I set my p-value to less than or equal to 0.05. Just that's what most research is set to, so I figured they're doing something right. This is the leisure time questionnaire. So, yeah, it's a little bit off, but the strenuous exercise, as you can tell, heart beats rapidly. This could be running, jogging, and then moderate and mild. They tell how many times a week they would do this on average, and basically during the season, there wasn't a lot of strenuous activity outside of soccer practice. I had them do an in-season survey, so this is going to be outside of soccer practice. Did you go running? Did you work out? That sort of thing, and I input their score from the last measurement in season, and then ran it against their scores. And then I did a postseason one as well to see how their activity changed once the soccer season ended, which unfortunately a lot of them just sit on their butts, and there wasn't much of a correlation, but some of them actually had some changes that they were increasing in body fat percentage. Results. So body fat percentage versus playing time for a team. What I did was I took the measurement for each time period, took the team's body fat and their playing time and ran them against each other. This is for each of the measurements. Had nothing significant, as you can tell. I was kind of shocked at the 0.221, which is a positive correlation, because I was thinking with more playing time, they would have a lower body fat percentage, but obviously with that, it was kind of going the other direction. But then as it progressed, started to see more significance, but nothing that was actually a significant correlation. Body fat percentage versus the questionnaire scores as a team, these were not significant either. I kind of expected more out of that in the postseason. I was expecting people to be doing more workouts and that playing a role on their body fat percentage. But with that, I think there may have been issues with them filling out the survey. I don't know if they didn't understand and just filled it out the way they thought. But I was looking at some stuff and some people answered kind of oddly, especially with mild exercise, because walking for 15 minutes counted. So walking to and from classes would probably count for something like that, and they would put 0. I was just kind of confused, but maybe better explanation with that would help this turn out better. And then body fat percentage versus playing time for individuals. I actually found 5 significant. I didn't find that. The data told me that. There were 5 significant correlations out of 22, so that's not major, but I was happy that there was some significant data coming out of this. So what do the results mean? It's not completely clear just because, it wasn't all 22 having significant correlations. We can't say that it's definitely playing a role, or playing time isn't definitely playing a role on body fat percentage. One thing I was thinking about is a lot of people came in at a lower body fat percentage, so they're not having as much room to play with. Some were coming in at 6%, 7%. At that point, there's not a whole lot of room to move up or down, at least not significantly. I also found it cool just looking at my table with all the body fat percentages across the season and seeing how there were common measurements. For example, the second measurement, body fat changes, or body fat percentage changes for that measurement. Everyone except for 2 people decreased in body weight, or in body fat percent. And one was just no change whatsoever, and the person who increased was going through an injury. So they had decreased playing time. So I found that pretty cool. Future research, I think progressing through, I started paying more attention to certain factors that play a role. So having a better set plan in the beginning would help me kind of take more accurate records, tracking playing time from the beginning of the season throughout, because the math was a pain in the butt after going back with injuries and those types of factors. So just taking better records. I also thought it'd be cool to look at playing time versus lean mass changes. I went down 13 pounds this season, and I only went down like 2% body fat. So a lot of that was probably lean mass, and I thought that'd be kind of cool to look at. And I finished with just some overweight myths because it kind of applied, and the joke that people say they're big boned, it's not true. We ran all the x-rays, blood tests, and that sort of thing. I just thought that was kind of funny. It kind of applied to this topic. With that, that's my research, but does anyone have any questions? Possible?
Did you have any anomalies where you saw maybe outside activity influencing more, maybe, which may have ultimately skewed?
Not particularly. One that I think might have thrown off my data actually was Tim, because he wasn't technically practicing or having playing time like for quite a while, but that kid was in the gym almost every day. So because I input his data in with the team's body fat percentage and that throughout the season, and so having 0 minutes on the board could have thrown off my numbers, which I probably should have gone back and taken him out just to see how it changed. So looking back at that, I probably should have done that. But he's definitely one of the outliers, just for the fact that he had a low body fat percentage. He went from like 8.5 down to like 7.5 or something like that. He was going down in body fat percentage with 0 playing time. So And if I was able to maybe, I don't know, bring in the scores and playing time as like one and run that against body fat percentage, I think that'd be kind of interesting to see as well.
Did you see anyone that like increased, in body fat percentage, but their playing time also increased, or?
I think that's partially what was going on a little bit with the first measurement. That's why it was the 0.221 positive correlation. And I could be wrong, but preseason we were doing a lot of activity. You know how preseason is, lots of conditioning. And then you get to the start of the school year, and you're not practicing as much time. You're not having like 2-a-days or anything like that. But people eat the exact same. That's one thing I noticed was nutrition probably played a huge role because my team eats like crap. And like I think going from preseason where they could pretty much eat whatever they wanted, and then they hit school time and they were eating the same thing, I think that might have been why there was a bit of a boost. And then I think through October we had like 3-4 games a week, and that started adding up, and I think that's when it started to become more significant. Just there was a lot of playing time involved with that. So, yes.
I think something that would be kind of neat for you to look at would be what your teams, like maybe even just their weight, but also their their body or fat percentage, but like looking at what that is when they come back to school after being at home and eating like home cooked meals compared to eating calf food, because calf food is packed with so much more, like, I don't even know how to say it nicely, but other things than it's supposed to be. But I mean, I wonder what that would be like a difference, and then seeing what it would look like through the season.
With that, some of my previous research, I think I had one source that did research on a Division III school, and it talked about how with D3 you don't have a strength and conditioning coach like for every team. You don't have as strict of a workout plan in the off season. You're basically, it's up to you to do it on your own. And so it was interesting to see like how throughout the season, like that might be why there are significant changes throughout the season, because they're coming in probably not in the best shape, probably eating like crap, and then they come in and then there's a significant like decrease in body fat percentage. Or with us, a lot of the guys are smaller and probably weren't working out a ton, and they were increasing in lean mass. So it was interesting to see how that worked. But I think that would definitely play a role, and those initial changes are but I would assume they're from not really working out as much and then coming in and just having to hit it hard from the start.